All right. Beginning of a new stream. This one was kind of a surprise, but I think I'm online. Getting all my windows set up here. Let me get my chat set up. See who joins, just for fun. Let's see. Chat window. There's our chat window. All right, people are joining. Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can see and hear me okay. As I adjust everything, I'm going to move myself over here. Move my chat window. This was kind of a surprise, you all. We'll have some fun on this stream. I'm going to look at some of the comments people made about me possibly watching the SpongeBob episode, The Splinter. That'll be a lot of fun. But I didn't announce this stream. This will be just kind of a surprise for fun stream. I see everybody rolling up here. First, a quick hello to everybody. Let me know if the volume is okay, if you can see me, if you can hear me. I think everything's working okay. No, I have not watched The Splinter, but we're going to talk about that on this stream, okay? So I see everybody roll in. We've got VKA, Bipolit, Dank Cully, Damian Kurtz, and hopefully you can see my chat window here as I go down. I'm not going to just read chat messages this time. I will try to do some of that, but I'm going to be reading the comments from YouTube that people made. I thought a lot of them were pretty funny, so we'll go through those. If people that donate, as always, I will automatically skip to your message, okay? But I'll read what I can. Quick hello to everybody once again. Joseph Roth, Cupcake Nations, Victim of Fate. And I see some new names here, which is great. If this is your first or maybe your second stream with us, it's been a while since I've done one. You got Rail Fan. How's the weather? It's warming up. We went through a cold snap here in Georgia. Reverend Brown, Foxtrot Nation, Dank Cully, Z Banel, Safari says, honestly, I wouldn't watch The Splinter. Really gross. And so we're going to talk about that. Okay? I have not seen it yet. The Emerald Creeper says, going to be a crazy episode. Dank Cully. Okay, same people. All right. Any new names? Andrew Rodenbucker is here. He's asking if I watched Survival of the Hottest. I sort of skimmed through it. I didn't watch it in its entirety. Obviously, I watched enough to tell that I probably wasn't going to do it because it didn't really take place at the school at all. Jamal Sampson, thanks for letting me know you can hear me. Ashton Gillen is here. Brian Hicks, channel member for quite a while. Rabin Cruz is here. Long-time channel commenter, Rabin Cruz. Corey Guyton is here. Flying Car, Emma K. The Splinter. We're going to talk about that. I'll read a few more messages and I'll bring over my 2 YouTube posts. So I made a community post on YouTube because somebody mentioned The Splinter. So I just copied their post and said, hey, do you agree with this viewer? Then I did a poll because we've been talking about it on the Discord. I did a poll and a lot of people not only voted, but commented, and a lot of the comments were really funny. If you haven't seen them, you're in for a treat. So just a few more. Chris, not Columbus, says, driving home from work. Yeah, please don't wreck. Please don't have a wreck watching or listening to the live stream. That would be awful. Brian Hicks says, The Splinter seems like it's on par with Ren and Stimpy. I do remember Ren and Stimpy back in the day. I remember that I was not allowed to watch it. I do remember that as well. Rolling Thunder, channel member, says, hello, hope you're doing well. Hello, Brandon, hope you're doing well. The Splinter is one of my favorite episodes. Most people either liked it or hated it, or even if they disliked it, they wanted to see me get grossed out by it. And it's funny, and I'll show you this here in a minute if you'll stay on, the poll was in favor of me watching it, Yet most of the people who wrote a written comment were like, please don't watch it. Please don't watch it. So, so we'll see. And thank you, mods. I see a few mods for being here. Kaimani Burrell, channel legend, VIP, and principal's office level member. By the way, Kaimani, the two I did the what's it called? Avatar Winter Solstice, the first part, but I did it in 2 videos because I sort of had to. The second one's having some issues that I'm battling. I don't know if that one's Paramount or not, but I think it may be. I'm sort of battling that right now, and then I plan to do part 2 in 2 videos as well. Warrior for Christ, another mod. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Just sent you a quick message letting you know we're going to do this. Rolling Thunder, channel member, saying good work. Sorry got cut off. Miss Key is here. She says, hey, I wasn't expecting a live stream. Glad you can make it. Miss Key, teacher's pet level member. I'll read a few more messages and then we'll get into it, okay? Bipolet says, one reactor said Ren and Stimpy walked so SpongeBob can run. Okay. Yeah. In some ways. Donta0989, channel member, says the episode is unnecessarily repulsive. Yeah, a lot of people didn't so much like it. Okay. I'm just skimming the messages. I'm going to go ahead and sort of get ready here. I'm going to move my window just for a minute off screen so I can I'm bringing up my YouTube page. Give me just a minute here. And I will go back and read some of your messages as well. Maybe not all of them. If you're a channel member or if you donate, I can pretty much guarantee it. All right, so here's my... All right, I'm going to read 2 things. So I think I have what I want. I'm going to move myself over. And I think I have what I want. Let me get out of a few other windows. All right. I think I got it the way I want it. Okay. So what I'm showing you right now, and I'll move myself over. I'm going to move myself over right here. Okay. So you can still see your chat and you can see what I'm going to be reading. Okay. Not to worry about this Discord link. It's old. It's no longer valid. Okay. So 10 days ago, I started questioning you guys about this, and I noticed this channel member, I don't know if they're on, it's Gabby Ducron, 4BI, said, I highly suggest that you do not watch Season 6, Episode 5, The Splinter. The episode relies heavily on gross-out humor. Principal Brandon, you cannot handle it. I don't know why... Like, people have commented on this before, but something about the way they said it, plus they're a channel member, just got my attention. I don't know why. This post got 209 likes and 180 comments. Now, those comments include some of my responses, so it's not really, probably more like 100 or 125 or something. But I want to go through, let me make sure I do this the way I want it to, and read some of these, and I'm gonna, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna bring the chat window back if I can. If I can do that. Hold on. I'm still so bad at streaming. Hold on just a minute. Let me bring the chat back. Okay, there it is. All right. Okay. So, and thank you, mods, for continuing to monitor the chat. So I'm going to read some of these YouTube messages that people commented, and then I want to go to the poll as well. There were some really funny ones on there. And I've gone around and around about, should I just not watch it? Because a lot of people are saying, please, whatever you do, don't. Some people said, yes, please do. Some people said, well, do it, but make it members only. I don't want to watch it. Other people have said, if you put it out there, I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to skip the video. So let me read a few more of your messages, and then I'm going to read some of these YouTube comments, okay? And you can follow along with me if you want on your device, if you're watching this on your computer or your phone or whatever it is. Okay, Kaimani up here says, I'm looking forward to the Solstice being released. Hopefully it's cleared and it's possible to... Oh, yeah. So, Kaimani, I will do that. What he means is those... If you're a fan of Avatar The Last Airbender, those reaction videos exist pretty much because of Kaimani, so you can sort of thank him. And what I did a couple of times is he happens to be a principal's office level member, which I think we only have 2 or maybe 3 of those. And I put it really just for him, but I made it to where only principal's office level members can see them, so he can see them. So Kaimani, I will do that for you once again. Rolling Thunder says, to my knowledge, most Nickelodeon shows are owned by Paramount, so if you're having issues with copyright, that could be where it's coming from. I don't know what happened, honestly. Very recently, they must have changed something, and I know they're going through a whole, like, business deal. I don't really keep up with it, but I do know that recently they've changed the way that they did it, and it's like they just content ID clean, they copyright claim everything no matter what, which didn't always happen before. Okay, let's see. Okay, I was right here. Gabby's here. Nice to see you. Joseph Roth, please don't pause on the gross out scenes. Yeah, I do that sometimes accidentally. I don't do it on purpose. Okay. Rolling Thunder obviously says, obviously, if you think watching the episode is something that would make you physically ill, then I don't know about physically ill. I mean, if it's that bad, I can always just, like, get up and leave, you know, if it's really that bad. I don't think so. I do tend to get grossed out easily. All right, so let me take a look at this. So we had this comment, right? Let's see how people responded. Grudgy 1269, who's a channel member, said, I almost want to see you watch it just to see a reaction, but yeah, it's unanimously considered one of the grossest episodes for very good reason. That's what I've been hearing all along. Jordan Lassiter, and this message got 18 replies, also agreed. Also, a pal for Gary stated, Tom Kenny stated how he hated that episode because how out of character SpongeBob was, okay? Super Jacob said, this was about a week and a half ago, an episode that relies heavily on gross out humor. Yeah, you're better off not watching it. And you'll notice that, like, even though this poll, like the yeses won, a lot of people who commented said, please don't do it. Depth 217 then said, yeah, definitely stay away from that one, and a pal for Gary, which a lot of people mentioned, like a couple of other really gross episodes. And I'm still watching the chat. I'm going to try and go back to it. And if anybody donates during the stream, I will automatically skip straight to their message. Daydream Fairy Girl said, it's a very painful episode and doesn't have much of a plot, but there are far worse episodes than the Splinter. That I don't remember seeing. And I did read most of these, but I don't remember. So it's almost like I'm reading for the first time again. Jen N. Official said, I sadly have seen that episode, or at least clips of the grossest parts, and I agree. As someone can handle gore like a horror movie, this one broke me. So she's saying, I can handle, gore or whatever, but this one broke me. Alejandro Franco said, the Splinter wins an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. And I lost my chat. Hold on just a minute. There it is. Okay. Let me get it like I had it. Okay. Grove Street said, I also highly recommend from season 8 A Friendly Game where SpongeBob and Patrick play miniature golf. I'm promising you, I've never laughed so hard in my life for season 8. Okay. Ghost Smokeless 28, who's a channel member, said, I think you should make a poll on whether or not to watch it. Who says I don't listen to channel members? I did end up doing that, and we're going to take a look at that here in a minute. And I'm gonna look back at the chat as well. So if you're typing, I will end up seeing it here in a minute. Sleepy Mailman said, I'd love to see you watch that episode. Even if you don't make it all the way through, it'd be awesome as a side video just to see how long you can handle it. If I watch it, I'll watch the whole thing. I mean, there's no issue with that. Dan Cully, who is on this stream, said, depends on who you are. Mondo Makar said, I can hear the gross now, meaning me saying, ugh, gross, which I tend to do. I tend to do that. Grove Street said, also another episode that can be great involving around Squidward that is pretty awesome is Squidward's Tiki Land. A few people have mentioned that episode. Rachel Gibson, who has been watching this channel for a long time, said, I've been thinking that for a while now, but yeah, I don't know if you'd actually get sick or not from grossness, but either way, it's too much for you probably. It's up to you, though. Evermine39 said, I remember watching that when I was little, and it caused me physical pain. That's different. Mr. Doc TV said, speaking of episodes, you really need to watch Karen's Virus from season 11. Yeah, some people didn't even comment on this. They just took the opportunity to recommend a different episode, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. Ice Captain 24 said, mixed. It's a gross episode, but like with school, there are bad parts you got to deal with. So I think the other person's idea of a poll would be a good idea, and that's what I did. Okay. Cats in Hats 1, channel member. You can see we have a lot of channel members now. I think it's over 150 channel members of different levels. Said, I do want to see how you react to the episode because it's just kind of one of those episodes that elicits a strong emotion in people. That being said, it does rely heavy on the shock factor of how gross or painful the Splinter is itself. Okay. Sir Goggle said, I got PTSD from that. Kaimani Burrell said, watching that episode will get you closer to the full SpongeBob experience, and you say you get grossed out easily. I understand that, but if you can complete this one, it would strengthen your gross tolerance. Maybe it wouldn't be that bad. It's just a splinter in your finger. Kids get those almost often, at least in Jamaica they did because of workshop class. Interesting. Grove Street, I've already read a couple of his. Sir Cashapin just said yes. Loran, I never get their name right, says there's a lot of gross out humor in that episode. It's way better. There's still a way better episode than One Course Meal, which I've heard about too. Rachel Gibson again. Said C5G8U said there are a lot of those kinds of episodes after classic SpongeBob. Trey Money says, all I'm going to say is another great one. Some people did that. They tried to fool me. Camera Mike said, definitely along with A Pal for Gary and One Course Meal, mentioning presumably other gross episodes. Miss Key, who's on the stream, says, Principal Brandon, why'd you have to mention the Splinter episode? Marissa Kirsch said, please watch it with us. That'd be different. I don't know if I can do that, but interesting idea. Or maybe a premiere or something. Sonic says, Sonic Mega Pikachus, or Chucks, says, trust him, Mr. Principal. That episode is not suitable even for the strongest in the gross humor area. Hey, I'm a fangirl channel member. Says, me as someone who doesn't get grossed out easily gets super grossed out by the episode. I personally 100% agree with them. There's way better episodes anyway. All right, I'm going to pause here and turn to our live chat, see what's going on real quick. Where was I even at? I think it's somewhere around here. Logan Lynch says, hey, channel member, new channel member. Thank you for becoming a member. Midnight Kitten Boy, who's been a channel member for a very long time, says, Avatar is cool. Was actually watching some when I saw the notification. Wow, you left Avatar for this? Thank you very much. Very impressive. Bipolit says copyright reform very much needed. And it, I know they always say this. I don't have a problem with copyright as long as you sort of make it reasonable. Okay. Just skimming the chat here. Bipolit says, I watch almost any SpongeBob episode. The Splinter is one of them. Kaimani said, thank you, Mr. Brandon, as it relates to the Splinter. I think if you can complete it, you can definitely handle other gross moments in SpongeBob. Midnight Kitten Boy says, I don't think the episode is really that bad. It's almost more hyped up now. Yeah, you might be right. I keep thinking maybe if I watch it, it won't really be that bad, or not, at least not as bad as everybody's making out to be. Warrior for Christ says, I mean, you can watch it, but it's one of those to each their own. Okay. Mama Becca says, hi, I just had what a bit of dinner, and it was so good. Sounds good. Turner Winstead says, hey, I got your mug, and it said you were from Texas. I don't know what that's about. I think Turner may have won one of the mugs, but not for... Do you mean like the mug is from Texas? Like it doesn't come from my house, just so you know. I do have a mug. Oh, you can't see it, can you? Can you? Is it behind? Yep, there it is. It's right there. One of the mugs. No, I don't ship them from my house. Another company ships it for me. So I'm not in Texas. I'm in Georgia. Bipolit says a pal for Gary is more poorly written rather than gross, in my opinion. Okay. Yeah, Jacob H12349 says House Fancy has a really hard to watch scene too. Yeah. So a lot of people took this opportunity to throw out like 2 or 3 other really gross or, gross episodes, quote unquote. I don't know if they're really gross or not. Let's see. Let me read a few more of these from the post, okay? So again, this was the post, the original post way up here saying, please don't watch the Splinter, etc. I won't read all of them because I want to get to the poll too. I've read all those. Mike Johnson says, please don't listen to it. You need to see the episode. It's really not that bad. Ticked Off Patrick said, there's another episode that has a scene where they rip off Squidward's toenail. I think it was called House Fancy. Again, people mention that. Halo says, I think I would have to agree. If you're not comfortable with gross things, I suggest not to watch it. Cupcake Mations says, agreed. I genuinely could not watch this episode as a kid without keeping my eyes practically shut the whole time. Still wouldn't even watch it today. So you see a pattern of these commenters. Ryan Leos says, maybe it's just me, but the grossest of SpongeBob is still not as bad as Ren and Stimpy. Lego Animations Master says, no disrespect, but knowing your extreme sensitivity to gross imagery, I have to agree with this comment. However, I dare you to give it a go. Sam Cook says, I saw that one on the first airing and hated it for that reason. Kristen Arho says, don't. If you decide to watch it, we warned you. Grove Street, I read their comments enough. Chris Not Columbus said, I initially said not to watch it, but I think you actually should actually. And yes, it'll be gross, but if you can make it past that episode, you can survive anything. Sky Nolan says, I don't remember what the problem was with the Splinter. I really think you should do SpongeBob's Place or SpongeBob's Big Birthday Blowout. Robro That Robot says, I would like to see you watch the Splinter and a pal for Gary. Rachel Gibson said, judging by your reaction, the opening of today's, I don't think you should. Really don't know, though. Jess said, gotta watch it so you can finally get it out of the way. J-Rad said, there's an episode called House Fancy, mentioning that one again, where Squidward's toenail gets ripped off and it actually shows gore and it's gross and disgusting. That does sound pretty gross. Fandom said, watch it for Halloween or something. It's not, scary spooky so much as it's gross. Austin92 says, the devious part of me wants to say watch it so we can all see your probably visceral reaction, but the rational part of me says the comment is right on. I'm so torn. Ashton says, you have to react to SpongeBob SquarePants versus the big one. It's a good episode. Raven Crew says, I 100% agree with the user. You won't be able to tolerate most of it. Same with the certain scene in an episode of House Fancy and the episode Ink Lemonade. Crazy Reviewer said, he's 100% right. It's so bad you might quit watching the show just from this episode alone. Not worth it. And this goes on and on. People watch it, people recommending other episodes. There are way more comments on this than I thought. Atlas Hugged says, keep a bucket nearby and watch through your fingers like this. If you want a different episode that is themed about a splinter, watch Once Bitten from season 4. Jared Cook says, agree. Originella says, selfishly, I do want to see you react to it, Brandon. Another one is House Fancy. Once again. Skullbinder says, do not watch it for your own good. Scabogato says, yeah, the Splinter is a bit much. Chill Aspirin, channel member, says, I 100% agree. So you can see, like, when I read these comments, it was like, no. Not everybody, but a lot of them discouraged me. Daniel May said, I do agree, but ultimately it's up to you. Truth says, well, I agree that it will be hard for you to watch. Mr. Doc TV says, Brandon, watch it. It's super calming. Look at this. Mr. Doc TV said, Brandon, watch it. It's super calming, and there's no gross out humor. Totally. Okay. Michael Recutioner, channel member, says, it's a pretty gross episode. As much as I would love to see your reaction to it, I'd recommend skipping it. Mikro Cabraja says, yes, just yes. I don't know if they're saying, yes, I agree, or yes, watch it. Lauren says, yes, please don't watch this one. Anna Waymeyer says it's pretty gross and not too noteworthy otherwise. It's one you could probably skip unless you wanted a challenge. Madeline Lawrence, channel member, says react at your own risk. Let's see. Oh, yeah. And some people did this, what that other viewer did. DJ Mocha says, don't listen to these haters. You should totally watch The Splinter. It's a guaranteed 10 out of 10. Trust me. And then they put a little smirk emoji. Okay. Jay Tamain, channel member, says, it is without a doubt the most painful SpongeBob episode ever made. No other episode before or after it compares. All right. Let me skim through and just see a few more, and they're all there were a lot of comments on this post. It just keeps on going. I'm just skimming for anything. This is kind of interesting. Rouge Jaw said, "Let me put it like this: I didn't get grossed out by the nasty patty. You did. I did get grossed out by the Splinter. You would. Well, I won't say what he said there, but you get the idea." Saying that I would have a hard time with it. Let's see. They're just... It's sort of a mixed reaction, but a lot of people are discouraging me. Let's see if they're... a few channel members here. I'm going to return to the chat here in a minute. Robert Jones, channel member, said, the Splinter and the one with Squidward's toenail getting ripped off, House Fancy, are one of the worst rated episodes on IMDb due to the amount of grossness. Donta says they're not wrong. One of the worst episodes of the show, in my opinion. Yeah, there are I would say probably 80% of these comments are saying please skip it. But if you look at the poll, which we will look at, they're saying the yeses win. Okay, so let me do this. Let me return to the chat for a minute. I'm back on the chat window. Let me scroll down and read some of your messages that you've been typing this entire time. Miss Key says, just don't watch it. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's okay. You know, if I watch it, you know, nothing's going to gross me out so bad that it's going to like harm me for some reason. So you don't have to worry about that or like scar me for life or something. I've probably dealt with worse things just being a school administrator, honestly. But it will probably gross me out. Stephen Turquoise is here. Hope you're doing well. Stephen says, I want you to know that I'm very excited about the new Victorious reaction for the ping pong episode. A lot of people have been talking about that. That was a sort of crazy episode. It will come out, that's next week, right? So that means that if you're an honor roll member or above, you will get it on Sunday. You'll get it on Sunday, just like always, and then everyone else will get it on Tuesday of next week, which is not long from now. That's a short 5 days away. And yeah, Stephen, there were a lot of potential firings and suspensions for sure. That was a crazy episode. And it's funny because even in that one, like, there's certain parts of it that are realistic, that could possibly happen in real life. That's one of the reasons why I like Victoria so much, is that some of it, the school parts are somewhat realistic for an art school. All right, let me load some more messages up here. All right, so here's where we are. Let me scroll back up and try and pick up where I left off. I'm not even sure where that was. Somewhere in here. Just skimming through the messages here. Gabby says she doesn't get grossed out easily, but Ren and Stimpy does gross me out. I remember seeing a couple episodes back in the day. It was pretty gross, and I was promptly banned from watching it. Brian Hicks, channel member, says, I doubt the Splinter is even that realistic. SpongeBob is just a cartoon. Yeah, I mean, that is true, but can still be pretty gross. Based on what these commenters on YouTube have said, then it's grossing a lot of people out. Chris Not Columbus says, right now Paramount is trying its hardest to acquire Warner Brothers under the leadership of Mark Ellison, and maybe they're trying to keep their claims bank empty. I guess a lot of it on YouTube, the copyright stuff is actually automated, but they can set their policy of how they want it to be, and then YouTube will follow through accordingly. So I've always noticed that certain publishers are more lenient than others when it comes to copyright. Jake McAfee says, hello from Nebraska. I hope you're doing well up there. Hope it's not too cold. Just skimming through. I'm sorry if I skip your message. I usually try to read way more of them. Again, I will skip to any donators. If not, that's okay too. I'll try to hit the channel members and any other interesting looking messages. Miss Key says, any new video ideas? Yep, for sure. I probably can share them with you on Discord. I don't have them in front of me. Rolling Thunder says, just curious, do you have any interest in possibly reacting to any of the other SpongeBob movies? Yeah, I do. I'll skim through some more. Danny Garcia, nice to see you here. Glad you're here, channel member. She says, I don't like the Splinter. It's disgusting, but I only don't like it when Patrick is involved. It's when it gets disturbing. And you could probably say that about a lot of different SpongeBob episodes, that whenever Patrick involves himself, things start to go downhill. I still remember the Suds episode where Patrick tries to cure him, and thank goodness for Sandy stepping in. And she says, but the Splinter is one of my most controversial episodes in the show. Kaimani says, I'm surprised one started a big debate on this channel. Should Mr. Brandon watch the Splinter? All right, speaking of the poll that Kaimani mentions, let's get the poll out. I'm going to pull my window. Okay, if I can even do it. Come on. All right, hold on. Oh, there we go. All right, let me move this to the side for a brief moment. I got to find the poll. Can't see it, but I'm scrolling up to where the poll is. No, wait. Hold on. Okay, there's my poll. Okay, here's the poll. Okay, give me just a minute. I think I have it where I need it. Let me pull this back over here. And now we've got the poll. So as you can see, I think this is good. I'll leave enough room for my face here so you can still see me. As you can see, the yeses did win, and 2,400 people voted on this thing. Just as of in the last 3 days, and there are 154 comments. Now, some of those are me responding to people's comments, but there's probably at least 100 comments here. Now, keep in mind, this was in the last 3 days, so this is a whole lot more recent. So I'm going to pull these down, and then I'm going to get my chat window back. Okay. All right, so let me read a few more live chat messages if you're still on the stream. And then I'll get into this poll. Warrior for Christ says, if you do a premiere of the Splinter episode, you can chat with everyone on the channel and we could even ask questions. Yeah, I thought about that. So I probably would not stream the reaction because, well, partly because of the copyright issue. But premiering it might be nice. Premiering it might be a good idea. Midnight says House Fancy, in my opinion, is far worse. The whole toenail ripping. Several people mentioned that episode, so it must have been pretty gross. Turner Winstead says, is Yo Gabba Gabba on your list? It is. Interestingly, I did mention Yo Gabba Gabba on Victorious. I'm up to episode 14 as far as the ones that I've actually watched, and I think it's episode 12 or 13. It's called what is it? It's where they're the little kid thing. The Diddly Bops. The song that they do sounds an awful lot like Yo Gabba Gabba. Raven. Oh, sorry. Your name is pronounced Robin. Sorry about that. Robin Cruz. Now I know. I've been saying your name wrong for like a year. Robin Cruz. I'll try to remember that as best I can. Victim of Fate says, just watch some Backyardigans. I have seen some Backyardigans. Those songs will get in your head. There's several songs. I could sing them right now. I'm not going to. The Backyardigans songs. They will get in your head. Hensel Molina said, yes, Ink Lemonade is way worse than the Splinter. That's saying something. House Fancy, one course meal, battle for Bikini Bottom. I wish I was a teenage Gary and a pal for Gary combined. That's pretty bad. Midnight Kitten Boy says, the toenail scene is not gross to me. Chris Not Columbus says, I'm going to go ahead and eat and then get some work done while being sick. Sorry, I couldn't stick around longer. I mess up so many usernames. I am Marinessa says, don't eat anything before watching that one. I missed it. Where was I? In JJ Zone, I'm not going to comment on politics, okay? So, I've seen your question twice. But thank you for asking it. Okay. Here's where I was. I'll read a few more of these, and then we're going to look at some of the people who commented on this poll. It's pretty funny. I was just seeing a comment that I wanted to read, and now I can't find it. It was, I can't find it. Sorry. Turner Winstead says, when you were a principal, how many teachers did you fire? Now, do you really think I can answer that? And if you don't know this, you may not know that people's evaluations and stuff like that is very private, and it's against the law to share it. So wouldn't be able to talk about it. Let's see. Shanette Thompson says, I'm a grown woman but love SpongeBob. I'll show you guys my audience demographics sometime, but probably half the people that watch this channel are between the ages of 25 and 35. So don't feel bad about that. I mean, that's my biggest demographic, is that 25 to 35 year old demographic, because it's nostalgia for them. They remember back in the day when they were little and they watched SpongeBob, and that's what they remember. Okay. Zachary Edwards says hello from Florida, not too far away here in Georgia. Let's see. Miss Key says, yeah, but I decided to skip Victorious. And that's okay. A lot of you all, some people watch all my videos. Some people watch SpongeBob reactions exclusively. Other people really just tuned in for Ned's Declassified back when I did that. I'm kind of sad it's over, but that's okay. And then Victorious, kind of the same thing. Some people like My Little Pony. Some people like King of the Hill, whatever. So that's perfectly fine. Let's see. Sorry if I skip your message. Jeff Roberts says, so you'll do the Splinter? I haven't really decided yet. I may do it at some point. Probably at some point in some form. Let's see. Rolling Thunder says, I know this isn't really related to the topic. If you choose to skip over this, it's fine. But in your experience, how do most school districts handle food allergies if the student wishes to eat? Yeah, people have allergies, and that's something that people ask about. Like in the enrollment packet at most schools, it will say, does your child have any allergies? So the school cafeterias will give them some sort of alternate meal if they have an allergy to anything in particular. Or let them have a salad or, whatever avoids their allergy. Most school lunch programs have like 2 or 3 different options every day, or at least 2 options. Or they'll make them a whole special lunch. They will do that if somebody has a really bad allergy. Okay, let's go to the poll. The poll said, should I watch the Splinter? Obviously, 62% said yes, 38% said no. That's not that far apart. That's like 20 percentage points. It wasn't like overwhelming, but let's look at the comments. So right off the bat, VKA says, please no Brandon with 2 crying emojis. Yeah, that's pretty clear. And are you guys seeing this? Yes, you're seeing it. Shroob Invader says, I honestly think you should be able to form your own opinion. Yeah, I poll things not because I just automatically do what the viewers say. I do like to do things that viewers suggest, but, I take that into account either way. John Eddie Cox says, just don't eat before, during, or after. Okay. Sal the Slab says, if you're going to watch that episode, I'm putting my hat in the ring and saying you should watch Midlife Crustacean, even though it's banned. Yeah, I heard it's banned. Grudgery, who's a channel member, says, please understand, as entertaining as it will be, these episodes are infamous for a very valid reason. Okay, point taken. Jax Jr. ATS just sent, who's from Germany, I think, who just said, I'm praying for you, Brandon. I'm not sure. I might be getting them mixed up with another user, but she says, I'm praying for you with a crying emoji and a praying emoji. Or I guess, that's a like your hands together emoji. Dylan Krim says, you should do it because your reactions are always so much fun to watch. I appreciate that. I always get Loran's name messed up. Remember, as bad as you think it is, when or if you watch it, 1-course meal is far worse. And that keeps coming up again and again. Brodiger Gamer says, I think you should watch that episode. There's a part of that episode that I really like that gets me every time. That's different. Number 900 says, don't torture yourself like that, buddy. And that got 22 likes. Shock Zone says, let's hope he makes it through the entire episode without pausing. Elbatronic says, no way, or you'll be late for your chicken costume fitting. Okay, that's different. Nightbeat says, this post feels like the angel/devil on shoulder troop seen in a lot of animated media. Undertaker Lover says, it's worse than the Nasty Patty. Don't do it, Brandon. Joseph Roth said, yes, but he's going to need a bucket next to him in case he starts to feel sick from the gross out scenes. Atome Dragon says, finally getting into some of the more infamous episodes. Early Ideas Studio says, you shouldn't have to if you don't want to. And, if I really didn't want to that bad, I wouldn't. It's okay. It's all right. Let me go back to the chat for a minute. Check on that. Load some more messages. There it goes. It loaded more messages here. Let me just skim them real quick. And a lot of new users are on this stream, or people who have not tuned into a stream before. So welcome, Superior Mario Brothers, and JJar100 and Matthews YouTube and Gold Freddy 2858. CFI says another gross episode is Fungus Among Us. It sounds pretty gross. Miss Key says, yeah, I hated the episode Wormy. The live action scenes gave me chills, and Wormy does get recommended a fair amount. I haven't done it yet though. Bipolit says, can't talk about any of the fun stuff that happened at your school. Yeah, I mean, I do still work in education, and so I'm not going to talk about anything that I cannot ethically talk about. Let's see. Joseph Ross says, I never watched Ned on TV, but I like your SpongeBob, My Little Pony, and Victorious reactions. Yep, and we've got Paisley Loves FNAF. We've got Powerpuff here. A lot of newer users that haven't done participated in the stream before. All right, let me read a few more, and I'll go back to the post, and then we'll just have fun reading a few messages and talking, and then we'll end the stream, okay? Let's see. And I just noticed it's on top chat here instead of live chat, which is all of them. All right. Let me scroll back up. I was somewhere in here. The Rec Fan. And I see a donation of some kind. The Rec Fan is another Principal's Office level member. He says, good evening. How's it going? Oof, the Splinter would be a tough watch. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Thanks again for your continued support, the Rec Fan. Let me know if there's anything I can ever do for you, or if you have any specific suggestions. And I saw Kaimani Burrell, members for 16 months, Principal's Office, says, imagine reacting to the episode itself and you have a slight or little to no reaction. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's always a possibility. Now, probably not. Then he says, then you look back at all the comments and think to yourself, it wasn't that bad. Also, back to my original, which avatars after Solstice Part 2? I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to look back at your suggestions. It's whatever you say it is, Kaimani. So because I got this list really from things that you have suggested on streams, video comments, and in the Discord. So it's whatever you want it to be, my friend. All right. All right, let me scroll back up to where I was with Rec Fan's first comment. And by the way, Kaimani, appreciate your support, being a channel member for so long, such a consistent fan of the channel, and a Principal's Office level member, just like Rec Fan here is a Principal's Office level member. I think we've got 2 or 3 of those, and then a few Teacher's Pet, and then like well over 100 Honor Roll, and then probably 30 or 40 Hall Pass. And sorry if I skip your message. I usually try to read like every message. I will do that later in the stream. So hang on. Let's see. Miss Key and Gabby saying hi to each other. Let's see. Okay. I'll pick it up right here. Bipolit says, one course meal is not super gross in my opinion, just a super dark video. Not average everyday darkness, advanced darkness. Yeah. And I can deal with gross better than I can deal with dark. After a certain amount of dark, it becomes unwatchable on the channel. So there's that. Gabby says, I think one course meal is not that bad. Sure, the actions of both guys were bad. But it is a very interesting episode to analyze. Gadget Snyder says, hey, school principal reacts. Hey, Gadget. Not sure. The Rec Fan, Principal's Office level member, says, sadly, that happens with most reviewers, not just cartoon ones. And he's responding to this. It's always I do think JJar100 said, I do think people can let their opinion get colored by cartoon reviewers, which leads them to make sweeping claims about episodes they haven't watched. And then the response was, sadly, that hope happens with most reviewers, not just cartoon ones. People tend to follow other opinions instead of having their own. Yeah. Which is not what this channel is about. I'm going to give you my own opinion, but I am going to ask for viewer input like I did here in this poll and on this live stream. Let me scroll down. Oh, Sarah Spindler is explaining the chicken fitting thing. She says, the chicken fitting costume was something Sandy said in a SpongeBob episode where there was a sea versus land creature battle where Sandy claimed land creatures were better than sea creatures. Thank you for that explanation. I have seen well over 100, I think 130-ish SpongeBob episodes now. When I began this channel, I had seen one, and that was Band Geeks, but I had not seen it in a very long time. So now I've seen well over 100. Bipilot says, yeah, just a super dark subject matter. Yeah, I'm not so sure I want to watch it now. Not the Splinter, but the other one. One Course Meal, was it? Joseph Roth and John Smith and C's are reminding me that I actually have reacted to Wormy. Yeah, come to think of it. It was where Sandy had that little worm in her tree dome, and they had to watch it. I see a donation, and it turned into a butterfly at the end. All right, donation. I'm skipping straight to the donation. 2 donations. All right, such a turd with the... That's his name. With the $1.99 donation says, another gross SpongeBob to love a patty. And that hasn't been mentioned by anyone yet that I can remember. It's always House Fancy, One Course Meal, the other Gary one. But nobody's mentioned that one. But such a turd, thank you so much for your donation. Even though I feel like I'm insulting you when I say your name, but $1.99 donation. I really, really appreciate it. I always skip straight to the donations, comments. Miss Key, who is a Teacher's Pet level member with the $4.99 donation. Really, really appreciate it, Key. She says, ever thought about doing a read aloud series? Yeah, I wouldn't mind. And actually, you've brought up several ideas in the Discord. Even though I'm not always able to respond to those, or I'll give it just a thumbs up just to let you know that I have seen it, I do save those. And I like having those on Discord because when I do have time for a lot of new ideas and new content, I intend to go back to that list that you and others have provided. So, and I did see your mention of various books. I'm fine with that. I'm not afraid of doing new things. I don't want to have this channel be like it's so many different things that it's not really about anything anymore. But no, I wouldn't mind that. So I do appreciate the idea and the donation and your continued support, and all your artwork too is just fantastic. It's great. It's outstanding. Okay. So here's where I was up here. They were talking about Wormy. Yeah, I did forget that I watched Wormy, but now I remember. Thank you, mods, by the way. I think there's 2 or 3 mods still left in here after Chris left. Warrior for Christ says, have you played Pokemon? If so, which is your favorite? By the way, I'll just throw this out there before I will answer that question. If you're interested in modding, if you're on these streams a lot and you're interested in modding, please either comment on a video letting me know that, or you can send me a message on Facebook or Instagram or X, and I will see that. Okay. So the question was, have you ever played Pokemon? There are like, I don't know what Pokemon you mean. There's like a bajillion different video games of it. There's also the customizable card game. I do have the card game, believe it or not. Now I acquired these like, I don't know. When was that? 25 years ago? I'm hoping maybe, someday some of those older cards will be worth something. Maybe. I did hear about like if you have like one of the original first edition Pikachu or one of the original classic Pokemon, those are worth quite a bit. But I did play the card game for a while. I do still have them in a box somewhere. As far as the games, not really. Like the classic Pokemon Red and Pokemon Yellow or whatever. I played it on an emulator, like briefly, but no, not really. Not really. I do remember the Pokemon Go craze. I mean, they still have that. You can still get it. And when I was at the Arts Academy, the one that I keep mentioning is so much like Victorious and Hollywood Arts, there was, I think it was the chorus classroom where the chorus teacher kept getting mad because there was a Pokemon like in his room. So you would have these random kids that would just show up. They would either skip class or they would just come in there when they weren't supposed to. And think of it, they're like rehearsing and they're really serious. And you've got some kid that goes in there with a phone trying to catch a Pokemon. Like, that was some trouble. That was some trouble. Nick Ronka says, didn't you make a live stream like this before reading the comments of recommended shows? Yes, I did. All right. Let me scroll down. Sorry if I skip your message. Dylan says you should do custom channel member badges. I wouldn't mind that. I just did sort of the default ones, which are the stars. That, those are good too. But yeah, if I have some time, I'd have to do that. HS Town says he has a bearded dragon. If somebody asked about pets. I do have a bearded dragon. Now, this bearded dragon has been in hibernation, or they call it brumation, for like 3-4 months. And he's not dead. I've seen him move at least once, but he just he doesn't move, he doesn't eat, he doesn't drink, but he's still alive. He's in some sort of hibernation state for right now. I'm hoping when spring gets here, then he will wake up. Kaimani says, yes, your content is truly unique and great. The only channel I have a membership for. Wow, that's cool. Also, I would suggest or recommend Season 1, Episode 12, The Storm, as the next reaction. Yeah, just make sure you let me know that in the Discord if you would, please, and I will do it. Excuse me. Okay. HS Town, which, by the way, if you're listening to this still, I do appreciate your comments. Yours are usually a lot more involved and descriptive, but I do try and read it all the way through and respond when I can. It says Brandon should do a podcast. I have enough trouble just, keeping up with my channel, so and working, so... But we'll see. Maybe someday. The Rec Fan, Principal's Office level member, says Worm turned into Butterfly in that SpongeBob episode. Quite right. Let's see. Gabby says he should do an ASMR read aloud series. I remember one live stream. This was some months ago when I was talking about the Super Smash Brothers Nintendo Wii Fit yoga instructor characters, and everybody started saying it was ASMR because I was imitating them, saying, all right, just take your arm and position it like this, like they would do on the show, but then in the not the show, the Wii Fit game, and then in the Super Smash Brothers, they're beating people up. So that was funny. Yeah, ASMR. I don't know that would get a whole lot of views. Warrior for Christ says, Young Sheldon has some great school episodes. Yeah, I have some content concerns. Content concerns. I must be getting tired. I'm starting to mess my words up. Angelo says he would love a read aloud series. Let's see. Scrolling down. And I need to go back to the poll as well. That's why we're here. Dylan says you should show your cards off in a YouTube video or stream. Okay. Yeah, I guess I could. I had that. I was big into these card games back in high school, which I went to high school from 1997 to 2001, quite a long time ago. But I had Pokemon, still have it. They had this Star Wars card game. It's called the Star Wars customizable card game. And then Magic the Gathering, but I had not first edition or anything like that, but 6th edition, 7th edition, which was still quite a long time ago. Okay. Let me jump back over to the comments on the poll and read some of those. And then I'll skip back to the chat, and then we'll talk some more, and then we'll end the live stream. All right. So remember, this is the poll asking whether or not I should watch the Splinter. Camden Burns says, yes, you have to see the hated episodes too. Sky Nolan said, you should really do SpongeBob's Place or SpongeBob's Big Birthday Blowout. Gabby's been pushing for that, and several other people. Dan Wright says, please no. That's all they put. Awesome Crazy, who comments quite a lot, says, you can handle it. Gross but hilarious. I also recommend the episode connected to that one, Slide Whistle, one of my personal favorite instruments and one of the many I can play. Well, it's not real hard to play. I'm not bashing that, but it's not hard to play the slide whistle. You just blow into it and do this. That's it. And it's about, this long or something. The Pandorica says, regardless, we need your reaction to Love a Patty, which someone else said was really gross. Miss Angelique says, if you choose to watch it, do so at your own risk. We warned you, but you're also an adult with your own free will. Ash, a show of hands says, I don't want to ruin the show for him. Happy MBM says, definitely whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. If you decide to make one, it might be wise to have a brief content advisory at the beginning to warn people who may be unfamiliar. It's not a bad idea. Rachel Gibson says, voting just to see the results, but not going to vote because I'm conflicted, with 3 crying emojis. It's not as bad as we're making it out to be, but for him, and it has the hands. Trevor Beast said, I'd rather have Principal Brandon react to every SpongeBob episode from the first 3 seasons before taking on the Splinter. It's not a good episode in general. The Red Cupcake says, good luck, with the kind of nervous emoji. Too cute, too cool says, I don't think he'll make it through that one, with a crying emoji. Some people, it's like they felt sorry for me. Like they felt like I would be scarred if I watched it, Atlas Hugged says, I think if you do decide to watch it, you should take special precautions like a nearby bucket. A lot of people did say that. I mean, I will get grossed out, I'm sure, but I'm not going to throw up on screen. I hope not. Goodness. Goodness. Space Zombie says, if you do, I'm not watching it. So there's that. John Doe says, I might need to get a sticky note, but I need to see you not handle it. Yeah, some people, it was almost like, people in the ancient world would go see the Colosseum to see people die and stuff like that, just to see a spectacle. It's almost like, yeah, I do want you to watch it. Not because I want to see the episode, but because I just want to see you get all grossed out. Okay. And there's more. Bipolet says, only cowards skip the episode, trying to rage bait me or something. Mark Dean says yes. J-Rad said, it would be interesting to see, but I think there are a lot better episodes you could watch instead. JP Fan says, do the reaction, please. Angelo says, the Splinter episode would make me vomit. Hensel Molina says, the Splinter is not as bad as the new SpongeBob episodes. Skullbinder says, do not let that happen. Anonymous says, another episode I don't recommend is One Course Meal, considered by many as the most hated episode of the series. Amigdio's Back says, yes, I have to warn you, but I have to warn you it's regarded as the grossest episode ever. Dante Amonte says, no way. Julia Boateng, that's right, I totally forgot. She commented, if you haven't seen it, she's a little bit bigger YouTuber than I am. I say a little bit. She has 100,000 subscribers. But she and I have talked a few times, and I appeared on one of her videos where she was talking about college and whether it's worth it or not. We'll comment on each other's stuff every once in a while. She said, good luck if you go for it, Brandon. That episode grosses me out, and I have a pretty high SpongeBob gross tolerance. The Master of Shadows says, guys, I have a feeling we're saying no will actually make Brandon want to watch it more because he's probably going to be like, oh, how bad can it be? Like to entice me from curiosity. It's almost like some people, it's like if you tell them, hey, don't do this, you can't handle it, then it makes you want to do it. Sad Doggo says, you can't run from your problems, Brandon. That's an interesting reply. Dawson Meyer said, I would get it out of the way and save better episodes for after myself personally. I'm going to pause here and go back to the chat. Let it load some more stuff. There's a bunch more. And there's a donation here from Kaimani Burrell. That was the only donation, I think. Yes. Okay. And Kaimani just, he didn't say anything. He just donated $1.80, which I greatly appreciate. Thank you, Kaimani, for the donation again. Okay. Let me skip right up here, and then I'll go back to the bottom. Warrior for Christ said, Pokemon Leaf Green Game Boy Advance. Oh, yeah, and Dylan was saying I should show off my cards. Midnight Kitten Boy said Pokemon... What? Pokemon... Fire Red and Leaf Green are being re-released on Switch today. Excuse me, tomorrow for folks in the States. Ernesto Moises says, hi, Brandon. Let me see. Scroll down. Rolling Thunder 1681, who is a channel member, says, seems like a lot of schools are switching from Windows to Mac or switching from Windows to Chromebooks. I use a Mac myself. Any thoughts on why? It seems like most school districts are. Chromebooks are very cheap, and it's sort of hard to mess them up. That's basically the reason. They're easy to buy in bulk. There are school districts that use Macs, but there are far, far more that use Chromebooks. They're just very easy. And, once you close the lid on it, it's sort of foolproof, the Chromebooks. They're a little bit more locked down. Ernesto said, you saw my comment in your community post. I'm sure I did, but these days I'm starting to get more comments than I can handle. What I have to do is sit down and just do a whole bunch of them at one time, and just skim down like I'm doing here live, and heart the ones I want to heart, and respond as I'm able. Interestingly enough, very recently, YouTube has started allowing creators to respond with a voice. So I can record up to a 30-second voice clip of my voice responding to a comment. For whatever reason, you can't do it on a community post, but you can do it on a video comment. So if you're a channel member, or even if you're not, but especially if you're a channel member, you may hear me respond with my voice. I was trying that out just the other day for the first time, using that feature. Let's see. Salty's here. Nice to see you. A channel member and a channel mod, says ASMR is creepy to me. Yeah, it sort of is. I guess it depends on what it is. Miss Key says he did it again. I'm assuming you're talking about the ASMR stuff. There we go. Bipolet says, whatever it is, it's eating wormy. Yeah. Gabby's laughing at my ASMR stuff. Tyler Caswell, nice to see you here. He says, what is your favorite episode of Drake and Josh that you've seen? I really liked, there's several of them that I like. I liked the football one just because there was a lot for me to talk about. Bipolet says, you loved card games so much you opened your own shop for them. Yeah, and some people asked me to play that again. That was a fun game. I may go back. I may just start the whole thing over because it's been like a really long time since I played it. Let's see. Yeah, Robin Cruz, I'll get your name right this time. Despite having a cast involving kids, young Sheldon isn't family friendly. Yeah, I didn't think so. Salty says, yes, young Sheldon is funny, but not the cleanest. So I'm probably not going to be doing it. Ernesto says, also, I like your Krusty Towers video, my all-time favorite episode. I think it's mine, too. That one and Cracked Crabs I really like. By Pilot says, Brandon, after watching the Splinter, are you not entertained? Yeah, that might be what happens. The Rec Fan, Principal's Office level member, says the Toenail episode may be worse or Fungus Among Us, not sure. The Toenail episode being House Fancy, I think. Getting a little tired, but I'll keep going a little bit longer. There is Kaimani's generous donation there. Let's see. Bipolet says, reverse psychology, telling one to do the opposite of what you want them to do. Yep. Miss Key is asking me to say, oh, monitor. That was kind of so-so. Bipolet says, give me voice clip responses, please. Yeah, I'll try to do that whenever I can, particularly for the channel members. All 150-something of them. Warrior for Christ says, I'm back. I just had to take my medicine because it helps me not have seizures since I have epilepsy. Well, glad you have your medicine available. I'd hate to think I was somehow partially responsible for that. Okay. Fox Fan Alley says, we had a basketball game today and we won. Congrats. Yeah, but basketball season is wrapping up in most places. I know Georgia, here we're in the state playoffs. Kaimani says, without giving much away, did you understand the premise of the Solstice episode you've seen, ranging from Ong to Sokka to... Yeah, kind of. I understood more as I went along, as they sort of explained, like when he got to that village and they kind of explained what was going on. I'm sure I didn't understand the full entire context. But yeah, the more I watched, the more I understood. Okay, Bipolet says, it's curious to me that you liked Krusty Towers and Cracked Crabs, given how much they have Mr. Krabs. Yeah, I don't know. It's just the humor. Like, it was just, I don't know. It was just funny to me. I don't know why. It wasn't just Mr. Krabs, but it was funny. All right. I'm going to go back to this poll, and then I'm going to come back to the chat again, and then we'll wrap up, because I'm starting to get tired here. Okay. All right. Right here. Will the fanboy says, I mean, if you really want to check that one out, then do it. If you don't, then don't do it. Okay. Left Turn Racing says it would be good entertainment. AI Love Idaru says, even though it's disgusting, it does have a few jokes that did get a chuckle out of me, and the moral of the episode is a solid one. I say give it a go anyways, just so you can say you've seen it. Dr. Pepper says, for your safety and well-being, no, but also yes, please. It's almost like, yeah, we know it's going to be terrible and you'll be grossed out, but we just want to see it. We just want to see you get grossed out. Destiny Berry says, yes, I want to see his reaction. Random Account says, in all caps, please don't. I'm begging you, under no circumstances, watch this episode. No matter how many yes votes you get, please don't. I'm begging you, don't. Okay. Close Arrow says, I guess the fans have spoken. Buckle up. Spitwit says, he won't finish or post the video. I can't believe they put that on Nickelodeon. It's just so stupid. He says, it's just so stupid. I love it, though. It's okay. Jeff Roberts says, yes, do it. The Master of Shadows says, I'm surprised how many of you said yes. I expected you to say no. Apparently, I'm the only 38% who said no. Karen Taylor says, yes, please. Depth says, no, please, no, haha. Sunji says, to me, it's the worst episode ever. Nick Ronka said, it's been talked about so much that at this point, I want to see it. Gage Schneider says, please watch it. I want to see a reaction. Brian Griffin says, yeah, I want to see his reaction, LOL. Calderon Galda Salvador says, absolutely. Chris says, please watch it. Comics says, honestly, I don't find the episode that gross. I actually even like the episode quite a bit. I know you have a different tolerance levels, trying to be nice for the gross out humor, but I still think it's worth checking out. Spackler Studio says, if you go through this, you may want to put in a viewer discretion, just in case. Truth Seeker says, no, Brandon, it's for your own good. People, it's sort of sweet, people getting concerned about me. The Sightless Ginger says, I'm such a traitor for voting yes. My curiosity just won out. I have to go sit and reflect on my life choices now. Jarrett, the most awesome, says, guys, I think it should be his choice. Yes, of course it's my choice, but I just wanted to see what people thought. Jamal Sampson says, I saw the Splinter episode a few years ago, but I can't give out the rest of the details. It's up to you if you want to view it. Good luck. Justin Pollard says, I don't think he should, but if he wants to, I refuse to argue. Ice Captain says, I say, rip the Band-Aid off and watch it. Ernesto, who is on the stream, says, yeah, I think you should, because personally, in my opinion, I think this is what Ernesto was talking about earlier. In my opinion, I don't mind the gross out humor here. At least the jokes, especially with Squidward, actually make up for it. That is actually really hilarious. JTM619 says, I know this episode is very gross, but at least it has redemption at the end. Something unexpected Mr. Krabs does, and something deserved maybe, happens to Squidward. Legend BTV says, most of the episode really isn't gross all the way through. Mr. Knuckles says yes. Dan Graff says, if you're ready to watch the probably most gross episode. Music Rain says, don't watch it. You already know SpongeBob loses quality in later seasons. This is true. And this episode is entirely grossed out shock value. Jen Official says, sorry, sweet guy. I love you, but please don't traumatize yourself with that episode. We want you to stay pure. Trust us. Okay, concern for my safety. Fizzy Pop Star says, don't put yourself through it regardless of the poll. It's way too gross. See, people are saying, we don't care that the yeses won. Don't do it to yourself. That kind of thing. What do you guys think? Ryan G says, even though it's more gross and not one will enjoy watching. He says not one will enjoy watching, but then other people said, I want to see his reaction. And it's not even because they'll enjoy it. It's like some sort of sick curiosity, like the Gladiator games example. He says, I have to admit it would be amusing in a way to see your reaction, but at the same time, it would also be good if you don't. So if you do choose to react to it, know that you would probably at least be giving some entertainment to people. Okay. Georgia Rattlesnake says, no, Brandon, please, no. I had a seizure back in 2020 after watching the episode. Wow. Episode gave him a seizure. It was so bad. Cats in Hat says, it is gross, but I'm curious. See, here it is again. It is gross, but I'm curious to see your reaction. As I think it will be a test to see how you would react to episodes with similar concepts. Like House Fancy and the others. Nihilistic Snake says, just make some important phone calls before you do. What am I is it going to kill me? I don't think so. Golden Ocelot says, at least it isn't the toenail episode. Chandler Owen says, when Squilliam Returns happening now? Squilliam Returns, actually next week, Squilliam Returns. It was locked in a copyright dispute. But Squilliam Returns will be the reaction video for next week. So channel members will get it Sunday. What's that? Friday, Saturday. So 2.5 days from now, you'll have it. Brius says, not necessary. Danger Dave, who is a long-time channel viewer, says, it is really gross, but it would make for good content. Once you watch it, nothing else in SpongeBob will be quite as gross. Robin Cruz says, I'm one of the few that says no. Actually, you're one of the many that says no. But if you decide to go ahead with it, fine by me. Caden Champion says, I wouldn't blame Brandon for skipping it. Some SpongeBob gets really gross and weird. LLW says, no. That's it. JC says, that's a no from me. Getting splinters are already bad. Why would you want to watch an episode about it? And you see why this piqued my attention, because there's so many commenters saying, no, please don't do it. All of that. Michael Recucutioner says, well, Brandon, while it's a gross episode, at the same time, I kind of do want to see your reaction to it, but completely understandable if you want to skip it. Jarrett Gerber says, you thought it was gross. I didn't know TV could be gross. Jack said, I mean, he already made it through many other gross episodes that are almost as bad as this. Master of Shadows says, this episode is the worst in the series, so it's so gross, on par with The Gift of Gum, which I haven't heard mentioned. Flying Car says, you will think this one is too gross. Emerald Paradox says, personally, I wouldn't recommend it. And I see you guys are continuing to put stuff in the chat. I'm coming back to the chat. Just give me a minute here. Fandom Edit says, it's not gross. It's uncomfortable to watch. It's the only SpongeBob episode where I can't watch the screen when the Splinter gets in close up and the sound doesn't sound great. Jessica Malka says, yes, you should watch it, but it's very gross. Mr. Dude Man Zombie says, Pet or Pests is even worse. The Splinter is Weenie Hut Jr. compared to it. Yeah, nice analogy there. Chrome Bone 23 says, definitely a gross episode with some funny moments nonetheless. Dogwood said, if you don't edit it all out, then yes, I personally think people are overreacting. It was gross, but not the worst thing I've ever seen. Caped Crusader says, I picked no, and not because it's gross, but because this is after the 2004 movie, and SpongeBob after the 2004 movie sucks. Okay, different reasoning. Cody says, you should definitely watch it. In my opinion, it really isn't that bad. There is a gross scene, but it's really only that one, and it's a cartoon. I feel like people are just remembering being grossed out and overplaying it. The Master of Shadows said, but I'm going to say it one more time. It's probably better if he won't watch it. The episode doesn't even have a good story. It's just focused on grossness entirely. Don't watch it. It's not the only grossest, but it's boring too, this episode. I love this one. Chill Aspirin, who is in this chat in the live stream, said, I will try to protect this man at all costs. I thought that was pretty funny. Gabby says, yes, he should. No questions. Gade Stringer says, the Splinter episode is okay, but it's kind of gross at the end. I will say that Static Shock and Johnny Quest are pretty good episodes. Shannon Yeski says no. J-Dog says nope. Lacrame says, it's gross for SpongeBob, and Brandon is that older generation. Goodness. That is easily grossed out by, well, not so nasty stuff. No offense to you, sir. I'm 32, but I'd be lying. I'm not that old. How old do you think I am? But I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to see his reaction to it. There it is again. After all, this is a reaction channel, and what better way to get a reaction than to have a person react to something you know they aren't comfortable with. Okay. Like Michael Watson says, sure, just skip the gross parts, but that's the whole point. That's the whole point of watching it. Mario and Friends Official says, the Splinter is considered one of the worst episodes of the show. Not only will it be gross, but it will be bad as well. I'm going with no. All-Star Gamer says, I hate this episode, and so I don't want to see a reaction. Sarah Spindler said, it'll gross you out, but I feel like fans are going to bother you until you react to it, so doing it will get it out of your hair. Camera Mike says, please no, LOL. It's one of the worst post-movie SpongeBob episodes. Ollie Atlas says, react to the Nasty Patty, which I've already done. And we're at the end here. I'll read the rest and then come back to the chat. Nick's Got Talent says, it's a terrible episode for one, and it's nasty for the average viewer. You have a low gross tolerance, so it's going to be a bumpy ride for you, my friend. Stone Yoshi just said, yummy. That's all they said. Night Trans Official channel member says, not a good episode. Patrick makes it worse. Dr. Patrick, don't recommend it. Oh, no. Dr. Patrick, just like in Suds. I'm starting to see what they mean here. Dr. Patrick, don't recommend it. My least favorite out of all of them. Fact Fiend says if the Splinter grosses him out, he'd never survive Invader Zim, especially Dark Harvest. Alexander Arts says it's not just the grossness. It's an awful episode, not worth the time. But if the majority says yes, so be it. I'll skip it. And then finally, Leon Corgi says, watch Squeaky Boots. There you go. There's your ending. I'm going to pull the window here over. Trying to do that. And I'm going to pull myself over. Whoa. Okay. All right. I'll stop that. Okay. So I'm going to read the remaining chat messages here. You can see I'm on the chat screen. I don't know, I have to scroll way up, or at least somewhat up, and I'll try to read all the messages now, not just the channel members or donations. Okay. Mario Bonchan says, yo, what's good? Gabby says, hall monitor. Yes. I don't know. Something about the way my voice is today, I can't quite do it right. Chels T says, everybody hates Chris, has some good school episodes. Ivan says, Brandon, I'm looking forward to see your Proud Family video on Saturday. We're going to have to skip a few here. Robin Cruz. Yeah, Abbott Elementary. A lot of people for a long time have been asking me to take a look at Abbott Elementary. That is coming. I'm going to have to do that. And also, I've been told it sort of focuses on the principal of the school as well. I'm going to have to do it, I think. Miss Key says, is the hall monitor episode your favorite? I don't think it's up there. It's not my favorite, but it's up there. I would say the top 10%. Gage says you should watch Shellback Shenanigans. Bipolet says, yeah, from the line from Cracked Crabs. You lifted the entire hotel room. Let's see. Warrior for Christ says, I have hydrocephalus. I've had it all my life, but was diagnosed at 6 months old. I have epilepsy, peripheral neuropathy, learning disabilities, open heart surgery, and I have you've been through a lot. I appreciate you modding on the channel. Gabby says, there are some good episodes, bad episodes. It depends on you. Blazemaster says, has the Wishing Well episode been watched? Not by me. I've not seen that one. Roy's second channel says, why are we making this episode seem so much worse than it actually is? Yeah, some people do say that, that it's like worse. They're making it out to be worse than it is. Warrior for Christ says, open heart surgery. Came home on a Valentine's Day with a fixed heart. Can't get better than that. Let's see. Bipolet says, you watch the Splinter, nothing else will be as gross, probably. Miss Key says, just don't do it. And then Bipolet says, do it, in the Palpatine voice. There's like Emperor, like, I can't do it. I'm not going to try to do it. The Emperor Palpatine voice. The Rec Fan says, some of these comments are really funny. Yeah. I got a kick out of it anyway. Bipolet says, it's like a car crash in slow motion, like I'm watching you fly through the windshield. Yeah, car. Miss Key says, yay, Squilliam returns. Yep, you'll get it on Sunday morning. Chill Aspirin says, for Halloween month, you should do the worst and grossed episodes. Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Chandler Owen is home sweet pineapple on the 13th. Yeah, there's a slight copyright issue with that one that I'm waiting on. There was a pretty significant one, but I've cleared most of it up. Steven says, I'm glad you're still streaming. I'm at my local mall getting my steps in. Sounds really good. With the walking and the bowling and the Chick-fil-A, sounds like It's having his best life there. Steven says, have you figured out what prop you want to use for your victorious background shelf? No. Somebody on Discord showed me a little pear phone as opposed to an Apple phone. That would be good. I'll figure something out. Kaimani says, people ran to the comments because they saw Yes was winning and put in one more push to convince you. Yeah, could be. Although what happens with a lot of polls, I've noticed, and I think this was the case with this one, is even at the beginning of the poll, let's say 50, 100, 200 people vote, whatever that ratio is tends to be the same throughout most of the poll. I think 2,400 people voted on this particular poll. Let me read a few more comments, and then I'm going to have to go. Let's see. See, I'm starting to yawn here. Salty says, a pal for Gary and one course meal are arguably the worst in the entire series. Blazemaster agrees. Handel says, Brandon is obviously 21. Yeah, I've never seen a 21-year-old with, a lack of hair and some white hairs on his face. HS Town says Brandon took offense at being called old. No, I really didn't. But he called me the older generation and said he was 32. So, what's the older generation to him? 50, 60? Not quite that old. All right. Let's see. Where was I at? Here we are. Midnight says Dr. Patrick. Robin Cruz says he's 34. Yeah. Mr. Psychowitz says that at one point. Because that was from the episode The Diddly Bops, and that little kid from the audience said, he's like 100 years old. And then he says, I'm 34. Yep. Zach Flackerton says the only thing good about the Splinter is that all the characters are tolerable except for Patrick. Let's see. Blazemaster says, I agree with that. I would love to see a Wishing Well reaction or Pal for Gary or Karate Island. Karate Island has a lot of, it's high up on the list. Kaimani says, oh no, Mr. Brandon got spoiled for the episode by 20% by saying Dr. Patrick. It's okay. That's all right. Jackson will. I don't know about the schedule yet. I'll have to let you know about that. Okay. Gage says, hey, principal, got to go because I have school tomorrow. Good night. Have a good day tomorrow. Love your videos. Okay. Peace out. Thanks for joining the stream. Bipolet says chocolate with nuts episode was responding to Warrior for Christ. I'm not sure what that was either. Okay. Almost at the end here. Bipolet says bald. Yeah. Absolutely. Robin says a paired product would be cool for a prop background item. You could share it with iCarly. Yeah, that's right. Zach Flakerton says older generation is Gen X up. Okay. So, then technically I'm not. I think I'm right at the older end of the millennials, I think. I'm not quite Gen X. Salty says, I'm a lot more sympathetic to balding now because I have dermatitis on my scalp. Okay. Gabby says, y'all stop. Y'all are killing me. Fox fan Allie says, after the game, one of the people was picking on me, but my boyfriend stood up for me. I'm not sure what we're talking about here. Okay. Just about done. There's a Steven, I'll end on Steven's comment. I just realized I'm almost as old as Mr. Psychowitz says he is in the Diddly Bops, which is 34. Warrior for Christ says, thank you for letting me be a part of this stream and mod. Yeah, thank you for modding. I really, really appreciate it. Panda says, did you drop Recess? I didn't drop it. It's not going to be like a every week thing, but I definitely plan to do more. Kaimani says, at the end of the stream, I'll message you on the Discord or tomorrow about the storm, or put it in the comments. About the other episode, and I will give you access to the ones once they get free of copyright issues. Okay, that's going to be the end of the stream. Really appreciate you all joining, hanging out with us today. There were a lot of new faces, well, new usernames on the stream, but I really appreciate your participation. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you're watching this after the stream took place later, then it was a really good time. Join us live next time. And as you can see, I really do read your comments. So if you have a content suggestion that you didn't get to, or I didn't see it on the stream, do post it as a comment on a video. But I'm going to end the stream here. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.